you. So thank you everyone for joining today. We're always very appreciative that you joined, and we're very appreciative of the presenter today, Dr. Randi Rubenzik, who many of you know, as I've seen already through the early schmoozing, a local in-town doctor who apparently is very well liked, as I can see. Also a very involved member in the community, and so I don't have all the accolades. Randi, you can fill those stuff in if you feel it's necessary, where you went to school and all that, but we trust you anyways. As they say, the best form of flattery is patience. So you have a number of patients that are still your patients, and that's the greatest compliment to your work. So thank you very much for your time. I'm gonna spotlight you, that you can share anything you'd need in the sense of your PowerPoint, your slides, your presentation. And again, anyone who does have a question, please feel free to go ahead and do that in the chat and or afterwards via your microphone. Thank you, Randi.
All right, I'm gonna start this, but first I just want to say that I am very grateful to the rabbi for asking me to talk to you all today. It is a pleasure to see so many people because we're all home quarantined. So it is delightful to see everybody. And I am very, very lucky because I just adore my patients, and it is definitely the part that I like best about practicing medicine is having a relationship with all the people that I get to see. So I'm very grateful. And I'm going to talk to you today about skincare. And Rabbi, you'll just tell me if you can't hear me or if I'm going too fast or too slow.
Perfect.
Let's see if this screen share works.
It is.
It's working. And what if I do this?
Oh, you hit that right, correct? The slideshow button that you had?
Tell me when it looks right.
And then you could do from start all the way to the left. A little bit above that. Perfect.
How's that?
Perfect.
Okay. So we wanted to talk a little bit about skincare for seniors. And again, I'm Dr. Randi Rubenzik, and I work at Spectrum Dermatology, but the rabbi knows how to get in touch with me. So if anybody has any questions at any time, you can always reach me. And it's a pleasure to see you all, and we hope everyone's staying nice and healthy. And let's talk about your skin. There are a few things that I thought we could touch on that would be useful to everybody. Some basic skincare, because we all have a lot of skincare needs, especially right now. We'll talk a little bit about the 3 most common types of skin cancer. Some of you may have had these, some of you may not. Hopefully you'll avoid such things by methods we will discuss. And then there are multiple common rashes that we see in ourselves and in our family and in our friends. And we can just discuss a few of those as well. And sun protection is the most important thing in my book, because we live in Arizona. We are constantly barraged by sun, and we suffer the damage that the sun wields upon us. So sun protection is an important topic for every person, especially in Arizona. When we talk about basic skincare, this starts with cleaning our skin. What we like are gentle cleansers, because we've all had those harsh soaps that can really dry out your skin, dry out your hair, dish soap that dries out our hands. And we know now that we don't have to overwash. So now there's a concept of washing too much. But in the era, of course, of COVID-19, we know that we have to keep our hands and faces very clean. So it's a bit of a balance. We need to choose products that won't dry us out too much, but will do the job. In the shower, we have choices of bar soaps or liquid soaps. And a lot of the liquid soaps have moisturizers built in. So those are kind of nice. Some people like to use them with those scrunchy balls that you used to be able to get. You can still get them in the store. And then they create a nice moisturizing layer on the skin. So that is a good option. You can get those everywhere. We can order them online nowadays. So the moisturizing shower cleansers can be helpful. And of course, when we talk about hand washing, we now know that 20 seconds of hand washing with any soap is good for killing the coronavirus. It also is good enough for killing the influenza virus and staph and strep. So during normal years, after we go to the grocery store or if we go to the bookstore or to the clothes stores, we want to come home and wash our hands because we've probably been exposed to the public and other things that other people have been touching. And when we get home, if we're going to eat something, we don't want to bring those germs into our houses. So we want to wash our hands with some soap and water for at least 20 seconds before we go about our business at home. What does it mean when we wash our hands? Put soap on the hands, make your hands wet, put soap on, and then rub the soap for at least 20 seconds. Don't stick your hands right back into the water and wash up all the soap before you've had a chance to use the soap on your hands for 20 seconds. And make sure to get the area around and under your fingernails as well. Backs of the hands too, especially though the fingertips and around the nails. And hand washing, like I said, is very, very effective at removing the influenza, the flu viruses, as well as staph, strep, and now we know the coronavirus. We don't need antibacterial, specially called antibacterial soap. So some people like to buy that antibacterial soap, but it turns out that soap actually removes healthy bacteria as well as unwanted bacteria. So you do not need antibacterial soap, and in fact, it is not recommended. Here are some examples of some gentle bar soaps that, again, we can find everywhere. Dove is inexpensive. It's my favorite. I tell people you can get 12 bars for about the same amount of money, about $10 or $12 at Costco, and that's the way I would go every time. You can find it everywhere. But here are some other ones that people often like. Cetaphil, Aveeno, Vanicream. These are very plain, very mild, very moisturizing cleansers. The next thing we have to talk about is moisturizing, because we know that in Arizona, our skin is dry to begin with. It's a dry climate. We've all seen that picture of the desert floor, cracked and dry from living under the Arizona sun. And that is what will happen to our skin as well, to our hands, to our faces, to our heels. We've all seen that on our feet. But here, especially with all the hand washing we're doing, we need some constant moisturizers. The ones with the pump are very, very nice to keep next to the sink, because if you wash your dishes or you wash your hands when you come in from the store, you can just use the pump and put a squirt on there and rub it in and keep replenishing the moisture that your skin needs so desperately. This brand in particular, I see I've got 3 examples of the same one. I didn't mean to, but this brand really touts its ability to replenish the ceramides, which are part of the lipid barrier, the fat barrier that we need to reduce the loss of healthy oils from our skin. Some people wonder if just drinking enough helps to moisturize the skin. Drinking a lot is very important for your kidney function and to keep your blood pressure normal so you don't get dehydrated, and to keep you from getting heat exhaustion, heat impaired disorders. But just drinking enough water isn't good enough to replenish the moisture in your skin. So we do need to be careful with washing, wash enough but not too much, and then use good barrier and replenishing moisturizers actually directly onto the skin. A few more examples. Again, the pump ones are nice to keep near the sink, and the others are big jars that you have to open and scoop. And you can use a spoon or you can use your fingers, but they're very thick. One thing you'll notice too is that the ones in the pump are called lotion. They're a little thinner in their texture. The ones that are in the tubs are called creams, and they are thicker, they will stick longer, and they will give you even more moisturizer effect. And so often those are used at bedtime. And they can, generally speaking, be applied anywhere on the body. Sometimes they'll say facial lotion or body lotion. I am not particular, put it wherever you want. Lots of times we need it on our feet and then socks and then go to bed because of those dry heels that we get. We call those Arizona heels. So let's talk a minute though about skin cancer. There are 3 common kinds of skin cancer: basal cell carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma, and malignant melanoma. These are extremely common. In fact, basal cell carcinoma is the most common cancer seen in human beings. Squamous cell carcinoma is similarly very common, especially in Arizona. Malignant melanoma is not terribly common. About 1 in 30 to 1 in 50 individuals will get a melanoma in his or her lifetime. That's an increase from about 1 in 100 from when I was in school. So the incidence has more or less tripled since I went to school. All 3 of these are predominantly caused by sun exposure. So the more we can protect ourselves from the sun and the sun's rays, the lower our chance of having a skin cancer. We've all been in the sun a lot already in our lifetimes, but there's no time like the present to block that sun exposure. Here are some pictures. So basal cell carcinoma can look like a lot of different things, and I wanted to show you some pictures so that you could look out for things like this on yourselves, your family, your friends. And we can just describe these spots a little bit. We call them lesions. Some of them look, I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but some of them, like on the nose, you can see look bumpy, like a bump. And some of them on the other guy's nose here look like an indentation or like a little crater. The one in the middle has a bump on the outside and a crater in the middle. That's because the cancer grows as a bump and then it outlives and outstrips its blood supply, and the center tissue usually dies, and you can get an actual hole in the middle. And you can see the very bottom picture actually has a hole, and that's a spot that just won't heal. It's a little cut on somebody's skin, and they put Band-Aids on it and they put ointment on it, and weeks went by and months went by, and this little sore would never heal. And a little sore that never heals is suspicious for a basal cell carcinoma. So if you have a little wound and it just won't ever heal up, you know that could be a little skin cancer or a little infection, and it probably needs a doctor's attention. Any new bump or any new red spot where you didn't have one before is suspicious until we check it out. You might see a couple pictures here where some of the spots look like they're not red, they're skin colored or even white. And basal cell carcinoma can be skin colored or also white. Most often it's pink, but it definitely can be different colors. So we're looking for new or changing bumps or sores that just won't heal. Here are a few pictures of the next kind of skin cancer that's common, called squamous cell carcinoma. Squamous cell carcinoma also can be a red bump or a skin colored bump, but sometimes it's flat, sometimes it's scabby, sometimes it even makes a pokey little horn, as we call it, almost a little protrusion, like a nail on your finger, almost can grow out of one of these spots. And so you can see they can grow on lips, on ears, they can grow on arms and legs, they can grow on the top of your scalp, anywhere that the sun is able to reach. And again, the main warning signs here would be a sore that just doesn't heal, or anything that's growing and getting larger and larger and larger over time, or anything that bleeds and breaks down and heals with a scab over the surface, but just never fully finishes healing. Or, as you can see on this guy's ear, sometimes you get a little protrusion that feels hard, like a little nail, like a fingernail growing out, because squamous cell carcinomas can produce that type of tissue. And squamous cell carcinomas are a little more dangerous than basal cell carcinomas. They do have the ability to spread in the body, and we now have chemotherapy types of pills that we sometimes use for squamous cell carcinoma, as well as IV infusion chemotherapy and radiation for squamous cell carcinomas, because they can be a little more dangerous if we don't catch them early enough. We can come back to these pictures if anybody wants to see them again. Let's talk a little bit about melanoma, malignant melanoma. Melanoma is the skin cancer that most of us know about or are afraid of. It's the skin cancer that some people call a black mole skin cancer. It's a skin cancer that has a high risk, which means that it definitely can cause a lot of illness and even death unless we find it early enough. So we know that we all have to be looking out for spots that are growing or changing or just don't heal, or in this case especially, a spot that is a different color than your normal spots, particularly if it is a dark color, such as brown or black. As you can probably see from the spot in the middle, sometimes melanomas are pink or red. Those are much less common. They're a lot harder to find. But if a spot wasn't red before and becomes red, that's a bit of a warning sign. Often we'll see a spot like the one on the top left that might have started out as a small little pencil dot, but has spread. And we call those superficial spreading melanomas. They spread out all the way like a stain, and they're actually growing in 2 or 3 dimensions. Sometimes you'll see they're quite black and raised. Sometimes they have a smudged border, and we're going to talk more about the shape and size of melanomas. And sometimes they are multiple colors. The main thing you need to remember is that if you develop a spot that wasn't there before, that's suspicious. Or if a spot that you used to have all of a sudden starts to look different, whether it's a change in color, shape, or size, that is also questionable. So these are good examples for you to have in your memory. So if anything like that showed up, you would give us a call, or any of your doctors would know what to do. Let's see what we can. This slide it got so blurry, so I apologize, but the important thing here that you can see, I should have asked the rabbi for help with this slide beforehand. The thing that you need to see is the ABCDE'S of melanoma. Can everybody just see that alphabet across the surface, across the top there?
Yeah,
Okay. ABCDE is what you need to remember. Here's why. A stands for asymmetry. Asymmetry means that if you have a mole, it should be like butterfly wings. Here's my hands doing the butterfly thing. The 2 wings should match. So if you had a mole and you could divide it in 2 like butterfly wings, the 2 sides should look the same. The mole on the top is symmetrical, and the mole on the bottom, even though it's blurry, sorry, is asymmetrical, which means the 2 sides do not look the same, and that's not normal. B is for border. Border means that a mole should have a border that you could put your finger around or draw a circle around, and it should be very round or oval. In a melanoma, sometimes you can see, again, it's blurry, but you can see that that spot is not round at all. That's an irregular border with uneven dimensions. C is for color. Moles with 1 color are generally speaking okay. Moles with multiple colors are questionable until proven otherwise. D is for diameter. Diameter means how wide it is from one end to the other. Generally, if you have a pencil, here's a pencil with a pencil eraser. The width of a pencil eraser is about 5 millimeters. And if your mole is less than 5 millimeters, it's likely to be a benign mole. But if your mole is bigger than 5 millimeters, or even more importantly, if it is growing and growing so that it becomes much bigger than 5 millimeters and continues to grow, that is questionable. And then E is our newest addition to this chart, which is evolving, which is to say anything that's changing in color, shape, or size is suspicious until evaluated by a doctor, specifically a dermatologist. So A, B, C, D, E. You can actually, I believe, download cards with this information from the internet, and they probably aren't as blurry as mine. Leaving the world of skin cancer for a moment, we could talk about some common rashes that we see. Psoriasis is the name of a rash that is very common. Approximately 1% of all Americans will develop psoriasis somewhere on their body during their lifetime. Sometimes it's a whole body, like you can see on the gentleman on the top, or a whole scalp like the gentleman on the bottom, but sometimes it's just one fingernail or just one little spot on an ear. It can be a very small amount, and that can be considered a disease called psoriasis. Psoriasis of the skin sometimes is itchy, sometimes it is not itchy. It is sometimes unpleasant. People don't like the way it looks. But now we know that the really important part of psoriasis comes from joint disease. So up to 40% of patients with psoriasis will have arthritis that is related to their psoriasis. And we know now that patients with psoriasis, if they have a lot of it, are at risk for high blood pressure, diabetes, and high cholesterol. So we know we have to watch them carefully if they have this disease. We now have some excellent and wonderful and very modern treatments for diseases like psoriasis. Here comes another rash called eczema. Eczema sometimes looks a lot like psoriasis. It can be red and scaly like psoriasis. It is, however, almost always very itchy. It usually has a lot of cuts and scrapes because people are scratching them, and also because the skin is not healthy and it opens. Eczema can be caused by things that touch the skin, so you can be allergic to creams or ointments or preservatives or metals or dyes or other things that touch the skin. Or it can be caused by allergies to the environment or things that we use, or it can just be genetic. Approximately 1 out of every 5 children in the world develops eczema. Most adults grow out of it, but it is a very common disorder in adults, although a little bit of a different pattern than in children. Now that we're washing our hands a lot of people are developing eczema on the hands from intentional hand washing. So again, we have to use a lot of moisturizers to try to prevent that. Rosacea is another very common rash. This one comes pretty much only on the face. It usually is red. It can be pimply or it can be flat. It can feel like flushing, burning, and tingling, or sometimes there are no symptoms whatsoever. This one is not particularly dangerous, but you can see it can be very severe. And we do like to control it because it is an inflammatory disorder. And we see this is quite common. It can be confused with acne as well as other diseases. I did want to mention what you're seeing in the news about the coronavirus associated rashes. Every day we are learning something new about the coronavirus. It affects multiple systems in the body. We now know that it also affects the skin. This very cute name called COVID toe is the name of an inflammatory and probably blood flow disorder to the toes that we are seeing in patients who either have or have had COVID, which is the disease caused by the coronavirus, the novel coronavirus. This disease is often seen, or a disease that we thought this was often seen in cold climates, and it's called chilblains or pernio. People who live in cold places get things like this all the time, but in Arizona, we do not see this very often. I have only seen pernio or chilblains one time in 24 years. But with this disease, COVID, we're seeing it more often. So here are some pictures of this inflammatory and probably blood flow obstruction disease that is being caused by the coronavirus. This disorder of the toes is not particularly dangerous. It's just a side effect of the infection. And this goes away. It's usually a sign that your body is recovering from the virus. Another blurry slide just to show that there are multiple rashes that we know now that can be caused or associated with COVID-19. And then I thought I made a little list of some other ones. Just a lot of rashes that we're seeing now that can be caused by COVID-19, including hives, blisters, red spots, and the toes. And again, we can look at those toes more later. Let's just talk about sunscreen and sun protection because this is a good way to avoid dermatologists. So if you want to stay out of the doctor's office, one thing that we tell our patients is to apply sunscreen over all the exposed area of your skin every time you're leaving your house. That means your face, your ears, your neck or chest, your arms and hands, and in the summer, if you're wearing shorts, also your legs or the tops of your feet. What sunscreen should you choose? As you can probably see, I'm not at all particular about the brand. I don't think you should buy anything expensive because then you will not use it. I like all of these over-the-counter brands with an SPF 30 or higher. They all work. Find one with a smell that you like and a consistency that you like, and put it on every time. Besides sunscreen, we can get a lot of protection from clothing, and that includes a hat with a big brim and longer sleeves, longer pants. You can get these everywhere. You can get them anywhere. Costco usually has a good sale every spring. I tell people to wear longer sleeves and longer pants of their regular clothing when they're going outside, but especially for the beach and the pool, because we are completely exposed to the elements there, including reflection from the water. So a lot of these special clothing items are made to go in the pool and in the ocean. And here's a picture of some really cute ones for kids. And I highly recommend that you send these to your grandchildren for presents, because then they're going to get the protection they need and still look adorable and be able to go in the water and in the pool with their families. They can wear these and they cannot get a sunburn through these special outfits. The long sleeve, long pants, the hat, the sunglasses, the little shoes, very important. And then it's easier for the parents because all they have to apply is sunscreen to the face and the hands, as opposed to trying to catch the whole sandy child and apply the sunscreen. So this is snoot for us, Rabbi, this one, a little bit, and helpful for dermatologists.
Gotcha.
Very important. And that's all. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I want to thank the Rabbi and Chani so much for this opportunity. And I can go back to any pictures you want, see whatever the Rabbi says.
All right. So if anyone does have any questions, what I'm going to do, Randy, is I'm going to actually stop your screen share so
Okay.
and we can put everyone on. If you do have a question, please don't share anything personal. I know that you might feel very close to Randy, and maybe it's all of us. But still, if you do have any questions from her presentation, please feel free to either write it in the chat, or if you are more comfortable with unmuting your mic, I can follow that, and she'll be able to answer your question. Don't be shy. Anyone have any questions? Must have been, oh, you got something in the chat.
Let me see. Okay, here's a question. When is chemotherapy indicated for squamous cell carcinoma, and when is it not necessary? That is an excellent question. Generally speaking, for a small squamous cell carcinoma in a low risk area, which would be usually arms, legs, or the chest or back, generally speaking, chemotherapy is not indicated, is not necessary if it's a small skin cancer. Chemotherapy can be needed if we have a skin cancer in a high-risk location, and some high-risk locations include the scalp, the ears, the lips, the genital area, or if the lesion is large, or if a person has multiple squamous cell carcinomas. So those are some reasons why we sometimes need chemotherapy for skin cancer. If they're big, high-risk areas, or if there are multiple.
You had another question in the chat about sunscreen.
Oh, okay. If SPF 30 is good, is more SPF better? So SPF, I'm going to draw a little chart. SPF is the sun protection factor. And can anyone see this?
I'm going to spotlight.
And okay. SPF, which is sunscreen, helps to protect us from the sun. I don't know, I can't see my pen. Here's SPF 0. Can you see me? SPF 0 has no protection. Then 15 gets higher and higher, and then it goes to 30. 30 is the kind of the maximum amount of protection we know how to give, and everything else just goes up just a teeny weeny bit, if any at all, after that. What we get from higher numbers is a longer lasting effect. So higher numbers give you a longer lasting effect, but they don't work better. So if you have an SPF 30 and you reapply it every hour when you're outside, you don't need anything else. If you're going to put it on one time and be out for a long time, you might want to find the SPF 45, 70, 100, because that will give you longer protection. But that's kind of the curve for SPF efficiency. Excellent question. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
What happens if a basal cell is not diagnosed and removed?
Oh, that's an excellent question. So if basal cell cancer is not diagnosed and removed and is just left where it is, it generally speaking will continue to enlarge. And it can enlarge on the surface, but then eventually it will spread down below into blood vessels, muscles, nerves, and other important structures. So for instance, a basal cell cancer on your hand can grow into nerves, arteries, and even tendons and get deep. The most important ones to think about would be basal cell cancers on the head and the neck or on the eyes, because they can actually grow into the sinus cavity of your head, and that can be very, very dangerous. So we do like to take them off when they are small.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, you have some more in the chat.
Okay, let's see. Are dark spots considered a precursor to cancer? And is there a way to get rid of the sunspots? So dark spots, generally speaking, can be distinguished by the dermatologist into different groups. Some of them are age-related and entirely benign or not cancerous at all. Some of them are sun-related, but still not considered cancerous. And some of them are pre-cancer. The ones that are pre-cancers, we know we have to either try to remove them or observe them over time to make sure that if they're going to turn into cancer, we catch them early. Sometimes we try to remove them. The ones that are sun damage but not cancer now they basically serve as a guide to us to see how much sun damage a person has had. So if a person has many, many, many sun spots, they may not be cancerous, but we are aware then that that person has accumulated a lot of sun damage. And we are more suspicious when we examine that person that they may have skin cancers hiding. But they're not necessarily dangerous in and of themselves. Again, some are never dangerous, some are a guide to us, and some may be pre-cancer that either we have to remove or watch carefully. There are different ways to remove sunspots, and this is beyond the scope of this talk. Here's another question. Which foods can add a protection to our skin? We don't really know any foods that can add protection to our skin. We do know that it's important to get enough vitamins in general, because all vitamins serve a purpose in our health. So some people take a multivitamin, and that is what we need. It's also important to have a varied diet that includes fruits and vegetables as the primary base of your food pyramid, of your daily diet. We know that people talk a lot about vitamin D. Vitamin D is present in foods, certain foods, especially milk. It's added also as a supplement to some foods. And we know that vitamin D can be produced by our skin. Your skin is a factory for vitamin D. We know, though, that if you put SPF 30 on your hands, and if you were outside for 15 minutes, your hands would still absorb enough sunlight to make the amount of vitamin D necessary for good health. So sunscreen should not preclude or prevent your skin from making vitamin D from the sun. We still want you to put on sunscreen. It would be much more beneficial to apply your sunscreen every day and either take a multivitamin or vitamin D or get vitamin D from your food. Other than that, there are no special foods. Here's a question. I heard that some sunscreens have cancer-causing ingredients. Is there truth to that? That is an excellent question. The group that brought that question to the public is called the Environmental Working Group, EWG. They are not a scientific organization, and that was a false claim. So there are no skin cancer causing or other cancer causing ingredients in sunscreen. There has never, ever been a disease linked to sunscreen. So out of all the diseases you could hope to find and hope not to catch, and all the researchers who are always looking for the cause of all of those diseases, not one has ever been linked in humans to a sunscreen. That's important to know. We do know that some sunscreen ingredients are not good for coral reefs. And so in beach areas such as Hawaii and I think Australia, they have banned certain sunscreen ingredients for use at the beach. And we do know that there are some ingredients that people don't always like, such as retinols and retinoids. Those ingredients actually help to prevent skin cancer, so they're not dangerous if you find them in your sunscreen. Also, there are some sunscreen ingredients that have been shown to cause hormonal changes in mice, but never in people. So sunscreens are safe. Okay, here's a question. Let's see. Should I stop?
No. I wanted to make sure you saw it.
I see. Are spray-on sunscreens effective? Yes. Spray-on sunscreens are effective. The recommendation is to apply 2 coats of a sunscreen that is a spray, and you must use them outside because they do create an aerosol all around you that you then would breathe in, and that's not healthy. So if you have a spray-on sunscreen, you have to use it outside, preferably not in a windy place because it will blow away from you. But for the face, you can spray it onto your hand and then apply it to your face. Everywhere else, you can just spray directly onto your skin. But if it's a hair-bearing area, you have to rub it in. Otherwise, it just sticks on the hairs and it won't do the job and you will burn. So you have to rub it in if it's sitting on the hairs, and 2 sprays are supposed to be effective. The main thing with every sunscreen is that you have to reapply it if it's been some time while you're out of doors. Usually we say reapply every hour. It's just easy to remember.
Rabbi, I have a question, and that is, I bite my lips a lot. And what do you suggest that we do for our lips?
Oh, well, that's a great question. I think someone did mention lips. Okay, so this might be Mrs. Baum. Thank you, Mrs. Baum. And thanks for your question about the lips. In general, our lips get very dry. We talk a lot, we move them all the time, we smile a lot, we use our faces. So our lips can get very dry and cracked. What we want is a gentle emollient or ointment to help keep our lips soft and supple. A simple one would be Aquaphor or Vaseline. Aquaphor and Vaseline are clear ointments. They come in tubes or little tubs, and you can apply them all day long. Some people like lipstick. Lipstick, interestingly enough, is sun protective because it contains titanium dioxide, which is a sunscreen, a sunblock. But lipstick does not have a lot of moisturizers. Chapstick does not have too many moisturizers, a little bit. A lot of chapsticks you can find with SPF, and so that's worthwhile. But sometimes the chapstick does not even have SPF. It's usually more waxy, sort of a waterproof barrier. But the best ones are greasy, like Aquaphor or Vaseline, and you can put them on multiple times a day, but especially at bedtime, very protective. And you have to be careful. Sometimes you could actually have an allergy on your lips or even an infection on your lips. So if something didn't get better, you should talk to your doctor.
Gotcha. All right, any other last questions? I don't see any more in the chat. But if you do have a question, you can unmute yourself and speak. Pinky, did you have a question?
No, I just wanted to say good Shabbos, everybody, and thank you so much, Dr. Randy. That was really great.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. Good Shabbos, everybody.
Thank you, Pinky.
Challah out the oven. Bye-bye.
So I'm going to formally thank you again, Dr. Rubenzik. We appreciated this. If anyone does have a question that they didn't want to put in the chat or speak up out loud, you're welcome to email it to me and I'll forward it along to the doctor. I just wanted to share with everyone just the next week's upcoming schedule. On Monday, it's all me. It's Tuesday is a Jewish day, notable day on the calendar called Lag Bomer. So on Monday, we'll do a little bit of a Jewish chat discussion. You can also bring your own questions to ask me. As they say, stump the rabbi. Maybe a little bit of Jewish trivia in there. On Tuesday, we have Mondel bread with Benita Sonnabend. On Wednesday, we have my mother-in-law again, Rifki Slonim, who is going to be doing a chat on women in Judaism. So if you have questions of how traditional Torah viewed Judaism on women and why it doesn't look the same in the synagogues, that is a great time to tune in. On Thursday, we have a lawyer, Howard Cabot, who defended a Guantanamo Bay terrorist, who's going to share about that, the whys, the whats, and what was important to him about that. And on Friday, we have a violinist, Tiffany Weiss, who will share some songs. If you have any song requests or ideas, please do email me. She's looking for ideas. She wants it to be Jewish. She said she's always playing all the classicals, and it's such a treat for her to play some Jewish songs. So please do share some inspiration for her. Again, thank you very much, Dr. Rubenzik. And anyone who wants to stay on and schmooze, I'm staying on. Ruth, did you have a question? I see you unmuted your mic.
I was going to ask about hair loss. Is that a dermatologic problem as you get older? But it seems like the dermatologist. Oh, there you are.
Hello.
Go on. Hi.
So I'll just say a couple words about hair loss. Hair loss is a dermatologic problem, or at least I should say people usually come to the dermatologist at some point to discuss hair loss. There are many, many causes of hair loss. Sometimes the cause is the skin of your scalp where the hair is growing. The scalp itself is skin, and that skin can be affected by certain diseases that can definitely cause hair loss. Other times, hair loss is caused by internal disease, such as diabetes, autoimmune disease, thyroid disease. Those are some common ones, and those need to be tested with blood tests. And the dermatologist or your regular doctor can order some of those blood tests. Sometimes the hair loss that we suffer from can be related to age or to illness, even surgery or stress, and we can have temporary hair loss. Sometimes we cannot figure out what's going on, and we do a biopsy where we numb and take a piece of skin to look under the microscope to determine the health or lack of health of the hair follicles. And all of those things are commonly done when we discuss hair loss in our offices. So it's a great question.
Thank you.
All right, awesome. Thank you again. Again, I'm going to unmute everyone's mics. Feel free to stay on and schmooze. For all of the mothers on here, happy Mother's Day. I know that it's totally different Mother's Day than any other year, but that doesn't mean you get to sleep. You don't get to sleep in.